This has to do with an article in the Wall Street Journal on the 3rd of February, yesterday, by Melissa Korn, K-O-R-N. I want to give her credit. And I was struck by this story. I don't know how many of you saw it. The story is about education, college education in the United States, and who goes to college and who graduates from college, and what that looks like. And the numbers, I found them so arresting, I wanted to share them very briefly with you, because they seem to me to give an insight into what is going on in the United States and what we're moving towards that is remarkable and kind of stunning. Here's the story. A group of researchers, particularly in Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania, asked the question, what percentage of people who come from the richest quarter of our population, the highest quarter income, what percentage of them go to school, finish college, by the time they're 24 have a BA degree, and compare that to the bottom quarter. So it's the same number of families, but you compare the richest family to the lowest family. And here's what the results are, and you can get them in the Wall Street Journal if you want, and there's a bit more detail than I have time for here. And these are numbers for 2013. They're the most recent for which the research could be done. 77% of young people from the richest quarter of our population, 77% have a bachelor's degree by the time they're 24 years of age. Bottom quarter, 9% of the people in the bottom quarter have a bachelor's degree by the time they're 24. 77% are getting college degrees from the richest, and 9% from the poorest. 1 in 5 of those from the poorest who go to college finish. 4 out of 5 drop out along the way. For the top, 99% of those who enter finish. Whoa. What are we learning here? We're learning that the education, the degree, is something clearly associated with the wealth, the income of your family. You have a degree because you come from the right place, and you don't have a degree because you don't come from the right place. You come from the poor place. Yet we pretend, don't we, that this is a society that's either committed to or based on, we only give you a job if you are qualified. Well, how would you get qualified? Mostly you have a degree or you don't. So we're basically saying qualified, but what we kind of mean is you come from the top, you get the job. You come from the low, you don't get the job. You're the one who's fired first, you're the one who's hired last. Do we help the people? A claim made by liberal folks a whole lot. Do we help the poor go to college? Well, these numbers suggest that whatever help we give isn't working real well. But let's look at the numbers. The most important grant the federal government gives to needy students is something called the Pell Grant System, P-E-L-L. And these numbers, and just hold them in your head, there aren't that many. In 1974, the average Pell Grant was $4,690, which covered roughly half tuition, room, and board that a student would have to go to. In 2012, the most recent numbers, the average money was $5,550. That's not a lot more. Meanwhile, the prices have gone crazy. So here's the wonderful result in the Wall Street Journal. The Pell Grant covered roughly half of a year's school in 1974. It covers 1/4 of the cost of a year now. The money that we give to the poor, the effect of it in terms of their college cost has dropped by half. Instead of paying half of it, it now pays 1/4 of it, which helps explain why either they can't get into the school or they can't stay in the school, since their financial troubles will be enough to throw them out. I want to say one more thing about the gross injustice of this. The gross injustice, because what we're doing is we are denying, that's what these numbers show, we are denying people in the lower half of the population one of the few ways they might get out of that dilemma, which is an education. This is not available to them, becoming harder for them to finance, not easier, that's what the numbers show, and so that we are cementing a difference not only of income, but a difference of income that is now compounded by a difference of qualification, which will be the most certain way to keep that differential and that inequality growing over time. That's why this points into a future that ought to scare you. But you know, even in college, I spent my whole life being a professor at colleges and universities around the United States, and I still teach at the New School here even now. I've always been amazed and taken aback that American students don't object more to the grading system. I give a little speech at the beginning of every semester where I apologize to my class for grading. I explain to them that I am not here to determine whether you are a B potato or a C potato or an A potato. And I can't possibly evaluate your mental capabilities by reading a couple of things you wrote under duress in an exam situation when you hadn't digested your breakfast properly and your girlfriend had just said things to you that made your mind blow up. I'm now going to give you a grade as to how you performed. This makes no sense. And it has nothing to do with education. If you want me to educate you, then I have to read your writing over a period of time. We have to have conversations. I'll give you my opinions. They may or may not be you. That's it. That's a reasonable way to... We don't do that. We give you these pressurized exercises and then write an A or a B or a C, and I apologize to the students. This is offensive. This is unfair. And I'm as honest as I know how, and I say to the students, I do this because I don't want to lose my job. They require us as professors to do this. So I'm going to do it, but I don't have to like it, and I don't have to approve of it. And then the students always raise their hand, and that's why I want to say the next thing. Well, then what is it really for? You hate it. We hate it. Why are we doing this? And I explain to them, the administration, it's a pain for them too. They have to keep all these records. Who cares? And the answer is, somewhere there has to be a reason for this. So I'm going to offer you one. Our system, our economic system, creates jobs mostly if enterprises think there's profit to be made by hiring a person to do something. In other words, we subordinate the employment decision, giving a person a job that he or she has been preparing for and studying for and likes to do, or whatever the motivations are. We give them a job if and only if it's profitable for somebody else to do that. And if it isn't, you don't have a job. You know, it has nothing to do with usefulness. A 10-minute walk out of the building here will show you 50 things that need to be done that could employ thousands of people. Clean the streets, rebuild the cities, have the daycare center. You know, we all know. It's easy. So clearly, we don't give people jobs because there's something useful to do. We don't give them jobs because nobody's making any money. So here's the problem. In our capitalist system, and this is really true now, it was always true, but it's true in spades now, there aren't enough jobs that are profitable. And this is a difficult thing. Why? How do you go to the American people and say, you know, we're terribly sorry to tell you that you're living in a capitalist system and you've got a lot of energy and a lot of creativity and you studied real hard and you're smart as a whip and you're fired. Or better yet, you're not even hired ever. You wanted to be a physicist? How about, I don't know, barista? You can study how the steam goes through the coffee and write a paper for your grandmother. There aren't the jobs. And it's very hard. How do you explain it to people? If you explain it the way I'm doing it now, you're going to make critics of the system, because you're saying you are all victims of a system that can easily identify loads of things to be done, but it can't work out getting you, who want a job, doing what we can all see needs to be done. So, because the system is so fundamentally irrational, you have no job. Have a nice day. The system can't do that. So the system has to work out a way that the absence of work, either of any work at all, or of work that has any relationship to what you've been trained to do, or has any relationship to what you would love to do and would capture your passion and your creativity. The inability of the system to provide that has to be explained to you in a way that doesn't make you anti-capitalist. And here's how we do that. Grades. No, I'm really serious. Grades. I give you an A. I give him a B. I give her a C. I give her an A+, whatever I do, and it has a wonderful function. It means that employers, who don't have enough jobs anyway, will give it to the A's. And the beauty, the B's and the C's, who don't get a job, this is the good part, will blame themselves. They weren't good enough. They didn't do studying enough. They took the wrong courses. They majored in the wrong topic. They buttered up the wrong professor. Whatever it was, they failed. And instead of being angry at the system, they'll go and have a lot of extra drinks because they feel bad about them. This is a technique for social survival, to have the victims of a system blame themselves. It really isn't very different from what feminists taught us some years ago, that if somebody attacks a young lady who has a tight blouse, the problem isn't the blouse and the lady, it's the problem of what's going on in the brain of the attacker. We're not without jobs because we got a B or we got a C. We're without jobs because there aren't enough jobs, and somebody has to take the fall. You're it. You got a B, and you're going to blame yourself.